fly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow.
I'm Alex, and today's book is It's Your Ship by Captain Michael Abrashoff. Captain Michael Abrashoff gained the control of the USS Benfold in June of 1997. He gained control in a situation of poor morale, retention, and productivity. He also had a disciplinary problem, mainly due to the feeling of wanting to get out of the Navy. The whole crew's attitude was sullen. There were 4 main points that the captain went after in order to rectify these problems. The points he went after were the budget, retention, performance, and fun. These are all relatable to any business and are able to make any corporation operate better than they had without a drive to master all of these. There is always room for improvement, according to the captain. And now over to Josh to talk about.
Thanks, Alex. Now, the budget for the USS Benfold was over $3 million. They actually had $2.4 million for just the maintenance alone, and another $3 million for repairs. The captain wasn't exactly actively pushing to have a lower budget for the repairs or the maintenance, but he wanted things to be done right the first time. One example of a way that he did this was to have his crew focus on being able to do things right the first time and to ask them about their opinion of their job. How could they improve, and what could they do better? One example of this is when he asked a low-ranking sailor what he thought of the paint outside of the ship after they spent 3 days repainting the entire ship. The low-ranking sailor suggested that they use galvanized rivets instead of the regular steel ones. This, when they did implement it, saved the budget several $100,000 because they actually didn't have to paint the ship as often, which was also a strenuous task, improving the morale of the ship. The ship actually saved $600,000 in maintenance and $800,000 in the repairs. Now, back to you, Alex.
Now over to Josh Klaus.
Alright. It costs the Navy nearly $100,000 to train a single soldier, so if they can be retained, it would not only help out with having a better skill base, but also save a lot of money. The retention rate for the USS Benfold when Captain Abrashoff took command was at a low rate of 28%. This means that with 310 crew members, only 87 of them would re-enlist. This cost the Navy $22,300,000 just to train the replacements for the sailors that would leave. If they invested that much money into the training of the current sailors, they could specialize them and make them happier. Furthermore, they would be able to give them both intrinsic and extrinsic benefits, because if they were trained more, they could be paid a bit better because of their specialization as well as being more recognized. The retention of sailors for the USS Benfold was not only a priority to save money, but through cross-training, many of the sailors were able to do the job to many of their peers. This enabled them to make sure every position on the ship was covered several times over, just in case there was an accident and somebody had gotten hurt. This makes the Benfold more efficient and teaches the sailors the importance of each person's tasks on the ship. Back to you, Alex.
Alright, thanks, Josh. Now we're going to go head over and talk to Lizzie and see about the performance on the ship. You're good.
Thanks, Alex. The performance of the sailors on the USS Benfold before Captain Abrashoff's command had been acceptable, but nothing to really follow. During his time on the Benfold, Captain Abrashoff asked his sailors to question why they did the task the way they did. He wanted them to figure out better ways of doing the task that they had to, and devising better systems in which to operate under. One system that the Navy had operated was to hand load all of the supplies they needed when they are in port. It only took a person to inquire why they hadn't used the conveyor belt for them to get a prototype made up. The Navy now uses something like this conveyor belt system almost exclusively. Another example of the workers to have an opinion was when one of the ship's engines failed, and one of the sailors figured out it was a defect in the line that was made out of steel, and it was corroding and causing a fairly dangerous engine failure, especially if the ships were on mission. The engine, after it failed, had to be completely replaced. But since the other engines had the same lines on this new part, the Navy had it installed. He knew that others may fail, and this would cause a serious problem for the whole fleet since they had them all installed. He communicated with all the other ship's captains and had found out that there had been 11 engines replaced within the fleet within the last year. This was when each fleet received new parts, and he had the captains check the lines of all the new engines. Every one of them had corrosion, and many of them were in danger of failing. The entire fleet had to be taken back to San Diego and had new parts put in. But at least it saved the fleet from having several ships out of commission from complete engine failure. All of this stemmed from having one sailor of low rank speak up about the defect he found and how he thought that it could be fixed. He suggested that he replace the entire ship's engine line. The captain just extended that, though, to the entire fleet because the entire fleet would have been impaired if not left to the supervisor to know about the problem.
Captain Abrashoff felt that fun was very important to making sure that the ship stayed together as a unit. One of the ways that he made sure that fun was enabled and put in part of the ship's work process was he made monotonous tasks such as refueling the ship a little bit more exciting. What he and the crew would do was project huge screens onto the bulkhead of the other refueling ship and play the music videos of that week. They would get these from the satellites that they would use to communicate with other ships as well. A lot of times, the entire crew of the refueling ship, minus the few that had to run the ship, of course, would come out and enjoy the fun with them, making sure that the Benfold was having a fun atmosphere all around.
A real-life example could be easily depicted from this book, especially for the budget. I work at a local restaurant that used to buy food from Maine's and Cisco, but they found it was much cheaper to buy it from a local grocery store. Similar to the Navy, especially Captain Abrashoff's fleet, he found that it was cheaper if they went to local stores at port and bought food that the sailors wanted. A specific example of that is the captain asked what kind of peanut butter they liked, whether crunchy or creamy. Similar with my restaurant, they found that brand name products the customers really enjoyed instead of having a Cisco or a Maine's brand. So, in reality, it is easily relatable to real life.
I'm Alex, and I'm a supervisor at a local grocery store back home. And at this grocery store, we try to retain our employees and also ensure that they have fun on the job as well. We do this through cross-training. This way, an employee feels like they have more responsibility and more movement throughout the store. Also, we try to incorporate fun by having company barbecues and deli platters in the break room on certain holidays and other fun things like that. We also have giveaways, contests, drawings every month for birthday cakes if it's your birthday and you can get picked to win. So we try to have a lot of fun on the job.
On my high school soccer team, performance was everything. We had 11 people on the field, but we had 22 people total. And just like Captain Abrashoff, my coach was the mentor. He was the person that brought everything together to make our performance great. My coach, Coach Love, he always said that everybody has to do their part to get the performance done. If one person slacks off, it's not going to get done. The performance is going to be awful. And just like Captain Abrashoff, who wanted everybody together to make the performance great, our coach pushed us very hard to not let anybody back down or quit so that we could get the job done right.